Hello and welcome to this NET Back to Basics video focusing today on AQA Literature Paper 1 Section A. Now the idea in each of these videos is that we'll be talking through a simple summary version of the key points as quickly as possible. And today we're going to be focusing on Macbeth as a play and as a character. Right, let's talk about Literature Paper 1. So this paper lasts 1 hour and 45 minutes, or about 2 hours and 10 minutes if you have that 25% extra time. Now this paper is split into two halves. The first half is the Shakespeare text, and the second is the 19th century novel. Now for the majority of students watching this, that means it's going to be Macbeth, followed by A Christmas Carol. Now simplifying a bit, section A is worth 34 marks, and section B is worth 30 marks. That's because section A includes 4 marks for spag. It's not quite as simple as that, but let's just run with that as the basic idea. Now for that reason, it's worth spending essentially 55 minutes on your Shakespeare response. If it's easier, try and think about it essentially as more or less splitting this exam into two halves. Now for the Shakespeare question, there'll be a whole range of questions on different plays. Now you want to find the one that's on Macbeth, and that should be around page 4 to 5. There's only one question, so you don't get any choice on this one, I'm afraid. Now at the top of the extract, you're always given enough information that you know where the extract is from and a simple version of what's happening. At the bottom of the extract, you're then given the question. Now the question always says something along the lines of starting with, and that's a reminder to talk about the extract on the page and the whole text. You're then asked about how the writer presents something. Now this could be a character, it could be a combination of characters, it could be a theme or idea, it could even be about a setting, although that's very, very unusual. As a quick note, whether the question is on a theme or a character is nothing to worry about. A question about a character also links to themes, and a question about a theme has to link to characters. Basically, a character question is also a theme question, and a theme question is also a character question, so there's no need to be scared of either of them. You're given bullet points, which essentially just remind you to talk about the extract and the whole text, and then you're also given the marks. Now there are 30 marks for this question in terms of core content and those 4 for spag. Now of those 30, you're marked on, first of all, your ideas about the task and the extract and how you explain those ideas. You're marked on your choice of quotations and how you use them. You're marked on how you talk about the writer's choices, the techniques and the features and the effect that they have. And you're also marked on how you discuss the big ideas in the text and how you talk about and link in the context. Now don't forget there are those marks for technical accuracy, so do make sure you're careful with things like capital letters and with punctuation. In terms of the essay you write, you're probably going to manage about 4 to 6 paragraphs in total. That's about average for people at this stage. And that means taking, ideally, about 2 to 3 from the extract and 2 to 3 from the rest of the text. Now, good advice is to basically follow the story from the start to the end. So the extract from the start, then start with the extract, then talk about the middle and the end of the text. If the extract's from the middle, then talk about the start of the text, then do the extract, and then do the end of the text. And if the extract's from the end, then talk about the start of the text and the middle of the text, and then link in the extract. Obviously, if it's that third one, then just for safety, it's worth throwing in a few references to the extract early on. Just link them into your paragraph a little bit. Now, in terms of the extract, you tend to find that it's been chosen to start somewhere important and to end somewhere important. What that means is you're probably going to find a useful quotation at the start of the extract and at the end of the extract that you're given. So what can we prepare in advance? Well, we can't know in advance what extract you'll be given, which character it will focus on, or which theme it might link to. However, this is about the play Macbeth, and that means that every question, fundamentally, comes down to a question about Macbeth. Now, if the question's about a character who isn't Macbeth, there'll definitely be someone linked to him, compared to him, or contrasted with him, so Macbeth is always safe to talk about. That also means there are certain themes that you'll probably be able to talk about because they're the big hitting themes to do with the character. So things like ambition, violence, gender, loyalty and betrayal, kingship. So if I've got a series of quotations tracking Macbeth as a character throughout the play, and I know what I'll say about, I'm probably as safe as I can be. I'd have to adapt it to fit whatever the question was, and if it's a different character in the question, then that character would be in the extract. But if I've got my Macbeth things ready, I know I'd have things that would pretty much always be relevant, that I could always link in and connect. Now, every teacher, every student is going to have their own favourite quotations, the ones they tend to use. For me, this would be my basic Macbeth essay. So I'd start with the point that Macbeth is brave but violent at the start of the play. And my quotation would be, his brandished steel which smote with bloody execution, back in Act 1, Scene 2, describing Macbeth. My second one would be, Macbeth is aware of his own dark side and he keeps it hidden. And my quotation would be, from Macbeth, stars hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires. And that's from Act 1, Scene 4. My third point would be that Macbeth knows that his only motivation, his only justification for what he's doing, is his own desire to be king. And my quotation for that would be, I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition. That's in Act 1, Scene 7. Then might link in Lady Macbeth, so the fact that she sees her husband as weak and as someone that she can control. And the quotation for that could be something, maybe kind of, my hands are of your colour, but I shame to wear a heart so white, from Act 2, Scene 2. My fifth one would then be that by the middle of the play, Macbeth feels all but overwhelmed by all the violence that he's caused, that he's prompted to happen. And my quotation could be, I'm in blood stepped in so far, that should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as go o'er. And I might just use the first bit of that, I'm in blood stepped in so far. And then for my final paragraph, again thinking about this 4 to 6 paragraph thing, the idea that as a result of his own actions, Macbeth is forced to realise that his life has become empty, has become pointless. And my quotation could be, a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing, from Act 5, Scene 5. Now what that means is that my basic line of discussion would be something that could be summarised along the lines of, that Macbeth is brave but violent at the start, and is aware of his dark side, keeping it hidden. And that Macbeth knows that his only motivation, his only justification, is his own desire to be king. And Lady Macbeth sees his weaknesses, sees her husband as weak and controllable. By the middle of the play, Macbeth feels all but overwhelmed by the violence he's caused. And then by the end, and as a result of his own actions, Macbeth is forced to finally realise that his life has become empty and pointless. Now, obviously, there are literally hundreds of other quotations, either from or about Macbeth, that I could use. But these ones would be, I think, the spine of my discussion. I'd link in some others as I went, perhaps. Now, this works as a structure because it covers the whole play from the start to the end. It links to some of the big ideas, and it also links in some of the other key characters. Now, what I'm going to do on the next slide is take the first of those quotations and just run through what I'd say about it as a bit of a model. So my point for the beginning would be that Macbeth is brave but violent at the start of the play. And my quotation would be, of course, this one, that is referring to his brandished steel, which smote with bloody execution, from Act 1, Scene 2. Now what it shows is that he's killing so many people that his sword is literally steaming with blood. And I think about the metaphor of his sword smoking, showing the amount of violence that he's causing and connoting this idea of destruction and damage and so on. I'd zoom in, I think, on the noun execution. Obviously, it means use, if we go back far enough. Here, it could be interpreted, though, as suggesting the overwhelming power that Macbeth has, that he's essentially just executing those around him, that they're powerless against him. And I make a link to the end of the play, where Malcolm describes Macbeth as this dead butcher in Act 5, Scene 8, and how this presents him as someone who just cuts up bits of meat And it links back to the brutal violence and also the power of his sword, having smoked with bloody execution. Now this links into the wider theme of violence and power in the play. And what Shakespeare seems to be suggesting is that violence in the play is a way of asserting power, and it can be both negative and destructive if misused. Now for me, this would be the first paragraph of the essay that I would write, centred on Macbeth. But obviously, it would depend on the question, and it would also depend on where the extract came from. Now, in terms of how we'd apply that to an essay question, now I can see from the top of this question that the extract I'm being given is from Act 2, Scene 2, and it tells me that Macbeth has just returned from the murder of Duncan. Now, looking at the question at the bottom of this page, I can see that I'm being asked to write about the theme of guilt. Now, what that means is that since Macbeth is in this extract, I'm more or less going to focus my essay on him, possibly with a reference to Lady Macbeth in there somewhere. Now, I need 2 to 3 quotations from the extract to talk about. You often find that there's something useful at the beginning of the extract, that it started where it does begin for a very particular reason. And also, there's often something very useful at the end of the extract, that they've closed it off at that point again for a reason. And then I just might also pick something from the middle. So I could here, for example, talk about Lady Macbeth telling Macbeth to go carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood. I might talk about Macbeth asking, will all great Neptune's ocean wash his blood clean from my hand? And for a third one, maybe Lady Macbeth saying that my hands are of your colour, but I shame to wear a heart so white. Now, thinking about the essay on Macbeth that I've already got mapped out, I'll probably use my first paragraph, then slot in the extract, and then use my last few. And that means it would look something like this little structure on the right-hand side. So he's brave but violent at the start, brandished steel, etc. Fine, got that one sorted. Then the extract. The Lady Macbeth doesn't respect her husband. She sees him as weak, someone that she can order around. Go carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood. That's from the extract. Again from the extract then, Macbeth is overwhelmed by guilt after murdering Duncan. And the quotation from Lord Great Neptune's ocean washes blood clean from my hand. Then I might go for Lady Macbeth, believing that she's stronger than her husband because she doesn't feel any guilt. My hands are of your colour, but I'm ashamed to wear a heart so white. I'd then go back to my overall structure, so that by the middle of the play, that Macbeth has become so overwhelmed by the violence he's caused, and we see that quotation, I'm a blood stepped in so far, I've got the idea of blood running through all of this, and then go for the end of the play, that as a result of his own actions and his guilt, Macbeth is forced to realise that his life has become empty and pointless, a tale told by an idiot, etc. I can link that to the death of Lady Macbeth as a result of her guilt. Now, for a different extract, I might have just used 2 quotations from the extract and kept 4 from my original plan. It kind of works either way. Now, obviously, whatever I choose from the extract, I'll still need to talk about features, zoom in on words, make links and connections, and so on. And obviously, whatever I keep from my original essay, I'll need to make sure I do nudge it so that it is focusing on what the question has asked about. So, top tips to summarise. First of all, obviously, answer the right question. Make sure you get the right text and only answer on that text. Spend 55 minutes answering it, or about an hour and 10 minutes if you have extra time. Have points and quotations about Macbeth as a character ready. Read the question carefully. Look for where it's from in the play, what's happening, and of course the focus of the question. Choose 2 to 3 quotations from the extract. There's usually something useful, remember, at the start of it and at the end of it. And write your essay chronologically, building in the extract wherever it fits. Now, if you're aiming higher, focus on the depth and the range. Now, analysis is important, but as ever, you're not necessarily marked higher for discussions around obscure technical features like catachresis, anaphora. It's the effect and the impact that are important. Showing you have an understanding of how the whole play slots together is useful as well. So making links and connections as you go can be really promising. Do consider multiple layers of meaning. It's a river of blood, for example. So does that mean he feels like he's out of control? Is he struggling to navigate it? Is it the complexity of the currents around him that he's realizing he can't control? and so on. Try to give your essay cohesion. So emphasize how your points follow on from each other and how they cover the entire text. Context, as another point, can be useful, but thematic discussions, a focus on ideas, that's far more likely to gain you higher marks rather than some obscure detail about, I don't know, the popularity of mirrors in Jacobean England or something like that. And thank you very much for your time. Hopefully that's been useful. As ever, don't forget, there's a whole range of videos covering all the other language and literature content on the NET YouTube channel. Take care.